In a previous section, we briefly discussed a bit about aeronautical charts and how to get the tower and CTAF frequencies of the different airports that we may need to monitor. In addition to that, there's a lot of other information that these charts provide. Let's take a look at some of it. First of all, sources for airport data can be found on aeronautical charts. Chart Supplement US, which was formerly known as the Airport Facility Directory, or AFD. Notices to Airmen, also known as NOTAMs, and Automated Terminal Information Service, also known as ATIS. The charts are revised twice a year. At this point, I'd like to go over what the different altitudes we find in the chart mean. AGL, or above ground level, are altitudes that are measured from the ground up. MSL, or mean sea level, are altitudes that are measured from a standard datum, which is roughly equal to the average altitude of the ocean, so from sea level. In this image, we can see the following information. This is Shenandoah Municipal Airport, or SDA. Its airport code, KSDA, is pronounced phonetically as Kilo Sierra Delta Alpha. It is non-towered. You can tell because the symbol that represents the airport is magenta. The elevation is 971 feet MSL, which again is mean sea level. The Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, or CTAF, is 122.8. This flag means that it's a VFR reporting point for aircraft flying under Visual Flight Rules, or VFR, and it has a beacon indicated by the star. This one is the Camp Guernsey Airport, or GUR, Kilo Golf Uniform Romeo. Elevation of 4402 feet MSL. It is towered. You can tell because the symbol representing the airport is blue. It specifies a right pattern for runway 32. However, this is a towered airport, so the airport can specify the pattern for any given aircraft. The star indicates a beacon. In addition to communication, these charts also have information that helps in navigation. These navigation aids help the pilot with their location and the best route to follow to get to their destination. The charts also provide valuable information about obstructions. In here, you can see obstructions that are above and below 1,000 feet AGL, or above ground level. You can see in this figure that the chart indicates the location of power transmission lines as well. The legend shows you how to read the obstructions and other symbols. Remember, if you're taking the test and you forget what a symbol in the chart means, simply look at the legend to figure it out. The test legend is usually located at the beginning of the book with the figures for taking the test. The charts will also show information on terrain elevation here. When you see numbers like these, where one is much larger than the other, the larger number means thousands and the lower number means hundreds. In this case, we see the terrain near Las Vegas Airport. All of the numbers that are pointed to with arrows refer to altitudes in MSL. The lowest an aircraft would need to fly here would be at those altitudes in MSL. For example, here it says a big 8, that's 8,000, and a smaller 5, that's 500. The lowest an aircraft needs to fly here to avoid obstacles is 8,500, and that's in MSL. Why MSL? Because that's the telemetry that pilots have on their airplanes. Pilots know how high they're flying because they use altimeters that are based on atmospheric pressure. When you're flying an airplane, you get your altitude in MSL, so it makes sense that the chart would give this much-needed information in MSL as well. Other useful information includes glider activity nearby and frequently used parachute jump aircraft operations. Charts will also show information on navigation stations, such as VORs, TACANs, and VORTACs. VOR stands for Very High Frequency Omnidirectional Range and is used for aviation navigation purposes. Tactical Air Navigation, or TACAN, is the military counterpart to a VOR, and a VORTAC is a facility consisting of both a VOR and a TACAN. In this figure, you can see the depicted VOR and the compass rose showing the radials, or directions, from the VOR. This chart also shows Victor airways, which are airways based on a center line that extends from one VOR or VORTAC navigation aid or intersection to another navigation aid, represented in the chart by light blue lines. Military training routes, or MTRs, are aerial corridors across the United States in which military aircraft can operate below 10,000 feet. These aircraft fly much faster than the maximum safe speed of 250 knots that all other aircraft are restricted to while operating below 10,000 feet. MTRs are divided into instrument routes, or IR, and visual routes, or VR. Each route is identified by either of these two letters, followed by either 4 digits for routes below 1,500 feet above ground level, or 3 digits for routes extending for at least one leg above 1,500 feet AGL. It's important to recognize where these MTRs are, especially when you could have aircraft flying very low, very fast. They're generally found on VFR terminal area planning charts. Here are some other symbols that you should know. These are symbols for towers. See how they almost look like oil drilling structures? The ones with the bolts of lighting on top means they have anti-collision lights on top. I'm sure you've seen them either while flying or just driving around. In the sectional chart, they show with 2 numbers, one of them in parentheses. These are showing us the altitudes of the towers in both MSL and AGL. Unless you're working in Death Valley, the lower number always means AGL, so you don't really need to remember the one in parentheses. Drones sell altitude based on AGL, so the number that interests us is usually AGL. Also, the letters UC mean that the tower is under construction. There'll be questions on the test that refer to towers and towers under construction, so make sure that you see the altitudes of the towers and respond accordingly. If one of the questions refers to how high you can fly to inspect the tower, remember to add 400 feet to the AGL altitude of the tower. When it comes to symbols, if you can't remember what they mean, just check the legend. You'll have it in front of you. It's at the beginning of the book of charts and figures that you get when you take the test. In fact, it's a book that you can download and should download. Either Google FAA Test Supplement Remote Pilot or go to the URL that's on the screen right now and download the PDF. Also, to get more detailed information on a given airport, you should consult the chart supplements, formerly known as the Airport Facility Directory, or AFD. You can find the URL you see on the screen now.